When we were young, we read more often because we had to. It was the only way for us to get knowledge and to be enlightened. Read to your heart's delight and be enlightened. Let's just read. It's a podcast by Andy's Personal Development. Stay tuned for more reading and enlightenment. Okay, people, welcome. This is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, and we are live in the studios of Let's Just Read, the podcast that focuses on the writings of persons like our guests here today who have done basically the hard work. They will tell you about their stories and the things that they would have focused on, their accomplishments, their achievements, and the message that they want to send with regards to the writing and the books and the publications that they would have done. So, our individual here, the guest on Let's Just Read, is Daryl Dittmer, and he's an author, entrepreneur, sober student of life. There's so much more. We're going to get into those things as we ask Daryl to now introduce himself and tell us a bit about where he came from and what his focus is now in life. Daryl, welcome.
Andy, thank you so much. I really appreciate having me on your show. Um, as Andy said, my name is Daryl Dittmer. I come from the Midwest in the USA, and I don't live there currently, but that's where I'm from. And I grew up with a Protestant work ethic. That's how I was raised, and it was a great way to grow up. It was a great way to live. I learned that we need to work hard and we need to do certain things to ensure that we take care of ourselves, take care of our family, etc. We didn't grow up with money. My dad was a mechanic, and my mom, handled the house and handled us children. I have an older brother and a younger sister, so relatively humble beginnings, and for which I'm forever grateful. Not having a lot didn't really mean anything to us at that time. We had what we needed, which in when you really look at it, or when I look at it, it's food, clothing, and shelter. That's what I need, and a lot of times the rest of those things are wants. So when I was young, in my early teens, I got involved in drugs and alcohol and drinking, and that progressed fairly quickly, to a point where, when I was actually 19 years old, before I was even old enough to drink, I was found myself in a drug and alcohol treatment facility. And since that time, since I was 19, I've been working on bettering myself, working on not only sobriety is one thing, but and sobriety is a great thing, because nothing happens in my life without me first being sober. But from that point, what am I doing with my life? What am I looking to achieve, but not just achieve success financially and that sort of thing. For me, there has to be achievement on my person and in my being and in my heart and in my soul. And that's been my focus for the last almost 40 years.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing, Daryl. We got a whole lot of the psyche of who you are, the individual that you were as a young man, that period of time when you grew up and you decided to take certain decisions about your life, to get away from the negativity and to embrace the positive and the mindset and attitude that you have now towards the future. We appreciate that. We thank you for sharing. So, how did you get yourself to the point where you decided I needed to write? and I'm going to publish it. I'm going to tell the world my story. How did that happen?
There's a precept in 12-step programs, and I've come up I started my sobriety in 12-step programs, and one of those is service, and it's service to other people, and it's helping other people, and it's sharing the message, and it's sharing my experiences, and in an effort to help people you know better themselves, and following the path that I've gone in, and that somebody taught me.
Mm-hmm.
I had a wonderful mentor, and I'll just relate a little story here. So,
Yeah.
because he was focused on giving to me, he was focused on helping me. I was a young kid. I was 8 months sober at the time, um, 19 years old. So when I was struggling and fighting, and that's how I grew up. I grew up to, no pain, no gain. The only way to get through things is to struggle and
Mm.
fight and
Yeah.
wrestle and all that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
he said to me one day, and he was a very down to earth guy, and his name was Bud, and he said, Daryl, when you stop fighting, the fighting stops. And I took that, and I've thought about it probably most days since that time. So that was the beginning of somebody really giving to me and really helping me, and me wanting to give back. Since I've uh, been sober, and this time that I've worked on myself, actually, my wife said to me about close to 20 years ago, as I related a story to her from my troubled youth, and she was looking at me like, "You're not that guy." And I said, "No, I'm not that guy. I've changed." And I said, "Remind me to write a book someday." So, and that was 20 years ago. But I probably wasn't ready to give 20 years ago what I feel like I'm ready to give now.
Mm.
So that's how the book came about, and I decided that I really wanted to give back. I wanted to give back what had been so freely and unselfishly given to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I can hear the passion in your voice. Thank you for sharing, Daryl. What is the main message you want folks to get from the message that is in the book? You heard how I said the question, right? What is the main message you want folks to get from the message that is in the book? And I asked it that way because sometimes folks read stuff and they don't get it until they read it a second or a third time. But what is the main focus that you want people to get as you're giving back through this publication?
Well, I want people to know that there's a better way. There's a different way. There's not just for me, what I grew up being exposed to and what I grew up believing, was the best that the people around me had to give me at that time. And that was what it was. I learned a lot of great things, and I learned, a lot about certain things in life, mostly my outer life in terms of what I needed to do. But I was exposed to something that was different, and it was my inner life. It was um, honesty with myself, and not blaming, and being disciplined, and being consistent, and having faith, and all these wonderful things that I was exposed to a different idea of God, for
Yeah.
instance, and
Yeah.
that took me a long time to sort out for myself, because I was raised in a very religious household, but I didn't feel it. I didn't
Mm-mm.
feel it like I feel it now. And
Right.
and 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 I have the faith, and I know everything's going to be okay. Like,
Right.
and I just do. So that's really the message of the my book is through my experiences and through my disbelief and unbelief and dishonesty and doing all the things that I did wrong, I want people to know through the lessons that are in the book and the lessons that I learned, that by me sharing my experiences, that maybe they'll be able to relate and they'll be able to, as they experience things and, read the book and experience, um, that their lives can change and there's something different and there's something better and there's something absolutely beautiful, as we continue to pursue this life.
Yeah. Now, many people would have heard what you have said just a minute ago, and they're going to say, well, I've heard that before. I've heard a lot of people speak about that. They speak about their faith and that kind of thing. And they've also have books and publications out. But what is unique about what you are saying, Daryl, is that this is your personal experience. You're not writing somebody's auto. You are doing your own personal experience. You are sharing things that you have discovered for yourself innately on the inside. And it's going to resonate with a lot of folks because they want to be able to identify with a real human being who has been through stuff, been there, done that. So I say what I say based on the authority of my experience. Your message is powerful. And I just want to share what the book looks like, basically. And it says, when I stop fighting the unexpected joy of getting my head out of my butt. We'll use that term for the PG rating and also for the sensitivity of the persons who are the audience for this particular podcast. How did you come up with the name for the book?
The name from the book came from my something I was told by my mentor, that the story that I related earlier, which was when I was wrestling and fighting and scrapping and struggling and and Bud said to me, Daryl, when you stop fighting, the fighting stops. And so I respect that man so much. And he passed away in 2016, but just a beautiful, beautiful human being.
Yeah.
And that's where the title came from. And quite honestly, the subtitle came from knowing that, that I wanted people to know that it was about my experience. It wasn't about telling somebody to do something that I hadn't experienced. It wasn't about, pretending that I know because I read a different book about something, and I'm trying to say, oh, do this because I read about it.
Right.
These are my experiences and these are my stories, and that's how the title and the subtitle of the book came about.
Great, wonderful. What if the experience that you have had as an entrepreneur, how did the things that you're writing in the book help you to deal with the challenges of being an entrepreneur? And what were those challenges, if any, that you would have experienced? Because I'm sure there was a time when you would have decided, I'm going to start this business, or I'm going to purchase this business, or I'm going to collaborate. But there would have been some challenges. There always are. How did you manage those challenges? Because I'm sure that that has been part of the things that you have been able to be competent about as you have grown over the years.
I love that question, Andy. That's a wonderful. I love being able to share this because being an entrepreneur, and it's difficult. It is tough. Nobody's saying, hey, do this and do that, and
Yeah.
this is next and this is next, and it's you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that can be the tough part, but
That's
but
right.
that can also be the beautiful part
Hmm.
because when we go through those struggles, we always learn and we always get stronger.
Yeah.
And if we have faith, our faith strengthens because things always work out. They
Yes.
just do.
Yeah.
So, for me, being an entrepreneur has to start. Um, it has to start with my inner life. It has to start with how I'm able to handle obstacles and how I'm able to handle difficult things and how I'm able to handle difficult people. And the only way that I can handle those things in a successful way is if I've shored up myself in terms of how I treat my body, how I treat my mind, how I treat my heart, and how I treat my soul. That's for me. Now that may not be for everybody, but that's for me. If I'm dealing with a difficult customer or I'm dealing with, not knowing what to do next, if I've learned to quiet myself and I've learned to, not just flail, if I've learned to listen and I've learned to have faith, then I can go forward in ways that, maybe somebody who hasn't worked on themselves from an inner perspective isn't necessarily able to. They may be able to go forward, but it may not, they can't go forward with that faith and that belief and just knowing everything's going to be okay. It's sometimes it's difficult to make decisions.
Yeah.
But if I have that faith, um, the decisions become less difficult, and there are a lot of decisions to make when you're an entrepreneur. So, I've been involved in several businesses, as an owner or partial owner, and things don't go the way you think they're going to go, and that's okay. That's part of it. So I hope that helped answer that question thoroughly, Andy. It all
I think,
starts for me with the
yeah,
inner life.
yeah, I think it did, Daryl, because as I said before, you're coming from a place of reality. It's not about telling a story, it's about telling what you actually experience, and that's powerful. How do you encourage people, Daryl, to have that kind of mindset? Because I'm hearing this coming out from you in that they see their season of trials, if I can use that term loosely, as not just trials, but as a semester of lessons where they can actually learn something. And coming out of it, that's the best way to benefit from the experience. So, yes, it's going to be challenging, it's going to be tough, but as you said, from the inside, you realize that it's also a moment for you to learn something, to grasp something. And I think that has a lot to do with the spirit of humility, maybe situational awareness, maybe emotional intelligence, or maybe it's just a matter of being grateful. But how do we get folks out there to understand that this is the mindset that makes a difference? And in those moments where you think the odds are against you, sometimes are the best moments for the life lessons that we need to learn.
For sure. You nailed a couple of very important things to me. Gratitude and humility, and those are absolutely crucial because for me, I can either be caught up in the problems or I can be caught up in solutions. I can
Ah,
say, oh, this is, I can't deal with this. This is too difficult and quit. Or I can turn that around and say, you know what? This is tough, but I'm going to get through it. I'm not going to stop until, I get through this issue or this problem. One of the things that I learned over the years is first things first and the rest shall be added on. And that's what I try to tell people, that if you're just dealing with the tough stuff and the difficulties and the problems, your life is going to be tough and difficult and full of problems. If you're able to think from the perspective of, what, I need to work on myself first. I need to work on how I think about things. I need to work on how my attitude toward things. If I can have that not give up attitude, if I can work on my faith, whatever that might be for any individual. If I do first things first, the other stuff comes, the other stuff shows up. And there's an incredible power that I feel like I've been, um, fortunate and grateful to align with. And, whatever a person wants to call it, you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want, universe, however that works for any given individual. But but when we can align ourselves with that, we can align ourselves with things, not necessarily that happen the way we want them to,
Mm-hmm.
but the things that work out for the best. And the best for all concerned. And I think that's incredibly important. The other thing I'll just say real quickly, Andy, is there was a gentleman, and this was probably 35, 38 years ago. His name was Jimmy, and he was in our one of our 12-step meetings, a Friday night at the community center. I remember it. I remember it vividly. And he, at that time, was, he was getting older. He was about 40 years sober, and he was probably in his 70s somewhere, maybe 80s. But he would walk, a little hunched over and struggle a little bit to do that. And in those meetings, he was the only person that used to fill up everybody's coffee in those meetings. He would walk around the tables and fill up everybody's coffee. And it was just such a beautiful thing. And I appreciate it more and more as I get older.
Wow. Love that.
And he always used to say, um, and all the young guys that I was with, we were still kind of clowns, and we were sober, but we were just young, and to us he was something of a deity. He was just really something. And he used to say, if you want to stay sober and grow and have the life that you're looking to have, you have to stay small, which means you have to be humble, you have to be teachable,
Yeah.
and you have to listen to people who have been there and done it. And that's one of the most valuable lessons I've ever been taught in my life.
Wow. That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing, Daryl. So much value in that. So much value. You had a mentor, that person that you spoke about that meant so much to you and shared some wonderful, valuable stuff with you. Is there anyone that you are currently mentoring or any group of persons that you see? It could be an individual or group of persons, young people that you see, and you're seeing that maybe some of what Daryl has experienced is good to help them seek a better future, better tomorrow, help them with their career choices and choices in life overall. Are you currently mentoring any individual or group of people with regards to how they can become better or the best version of themselves?
Not in an official capacity, but every day in everybody that I speak with, and especially I work with a lot of younger people from a business perspective, and constantly I don't talk about business necessarily. I talk about principles. I don't
Mm,
talk about
yeah.
how I talk about how much people care, and how they need to be honest with themselves, and they need to do the right things whether it feels good or not.
Hmm.
All of those things. So in an official capacity, no, but every young person that I come across, I try to impart as much of the messages that I've learned as I possibly can. And quite honestly, that was absolutely the reason for my book in the first place, was to be able to spread the message to as many people as I can, without having to be there,
Hmm. Yeah.
without having to be in person. And 50 years from now, I'm guessing I'm probably not going to be walking around anymore. But I
But
would love,
yeah,
I would smile, from ear to ear if 50 years from now I'm gone and somebody picks up the book and gets something out of it.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
meaningful part to me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Daryl. Appreciate that. Do you have any kind of feedback coming to you? What are the things that people are saying about the publication? And did you have the opportunity to do some book talks publicly where you can tell people about all the details, all the good stuff that you have in the publication? What is the general feedback that you have gotten so far, Daryl?
The feedback has been great. it's been officially published since November 7th of 2023. So it hasn't been out too long, and I haven't done any book tours myself, but or any public speaking, and I've just started doing podcasts.
Okay,
So I'm starting on that trail. But is it okay if I grab a couple of the reviews that I've gotten
yeah, of course,
just to
come
read a
on,
couple? Because
yeah,
I like that, honestly. Let me find them in my pile here. I like to go through that information because it's not me saying it.
yeah,
It's somebody else saying it. And if you
right,
just give me a second, I will find
sure,
them.
sure.
Um, I hope I'll find them. Oh yes, here we go. There was one that was really that I really liked, and it made me feel so good. But um, a gentleman said, "There's no preachy moral of the story here. This is like a working man's guide to life," which I thought was really, really cool,
Yeah,
because it speaks to the experience, right? It speaks
yes.
to, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, here's what I did. And I love that. Here's another one. It will bring you to tears, laughter, and back to tears, all within 2 pages.
Huh.
Um,
Hey.
it's a deeply personal and relatable book that will stay with you long after you've turned the final page. One more. You never feel that he is preaching or telling you what to do. He is only sharing his life story and allowing you to chart your own path.
There you go. Wonderful. I
Now
love it.
those make me feel good. I wrote the book hoping I'd help, a couple of people, and I'm hoping I can help a lot more than that. So
Yeah.
feels good.
Wow. Wonderful. So we have had Daryl Dittmer in the studios on the podcast of Let's Just Read. And boy, it has been an amazing time sharing his experience, getting his knowledge, just sharing and just putting out all that wonderful and valuable, warm stuff out there. That's how I choose to describe it. So we're coming to the end of the episode, Daryl, and I want to give you the opportunity to let people know how they can make contact with you, if they need to speak with you to get some inspiration, if they wanted you to send a copy of the book to them, if they want to purchase the book and stuff. Just share your stuff with them, your hashtag handles, however you want to do it. Let them know about you and the book.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. The book is available on Amazon, and if you just type in "When I Stop Fighting," it'll pop right up, or you can type in my name, which is Daryl Dittmer, DarylDittmer. My website is www.daryl, Daryl, Dittmer, Dittmer.com. You can send me an email. Feel free to send me an email, which is Daryl, Daryl, at daryldittmer.com. And I'm on Twitter, which is probably the place I'm most active because I'm just getting started with this whole social media thing and uh, getting the book out and that sort of thing. So Twitter is at Daryl E. Dittmer, Daryl
Okay.
and I'd love to hear from anyone that wants to reach out or get in touch, or if you're in need of a book, I can shoot you an email with it. I can send you the PDF. I can send you the book itself, or if
Yeah.
you want to buy the book. I'm Either way. I feel like there's more of an investment. If somebody makes an investment, they're more apt to take it seriously. But if you're not in that position, I would be more than happy to help you out.
Wonderful. Thank you, Daryl Dittmer, for sharing all that information. I will also have that information when this podcast episode goes out on all the social media platforms. It will include Amazon, Spotify, Google, you name it. So, we have had in our studios on Let's Just Read Daryl Dittmer, entrepreneur, author. Man has been sober for a long time, and you can hear the passion and the virtue in his voice, that innate experience that he has had. And he's just sharing with folks, hoping that at least one or two or three persons can receive and get something valuable out of it. We salute you, Daryl. So, until next time, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development on Let's Just Read, together with my guest, Daryl Dittmer, saying, be sure that you continue to read. It's the best way to be enlightened and to receive knowledge. Bye for now, guys. Take in this outro.
Wow, that was wonderful.
Okay, hold on.